Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today we have something a little bit different than what we normally have. We've got our first report card on Tesla FSD. So if you're looking for the regular drive videos, please check out the other videos on the channel. This is more of a look at the data behind FSD and trying to get a view of how FSD is doing over time. So I'll show you what I've come up with here to try to track it. I've been looking around and I haven't seen too many people that are tracking the way FSD is doing over time. There are a couple people that are doing some version of this as well, so I'll put the links to those in the description below if you'd like to check their version out. So what I've decided to do for myself is to track not only disengagements but the severity of the disengagement. So I've come up with this demerit system essentially, where the green columns are one demerit, and so those are very minor, no disengagement, just minor annoyances, braking, having to push the accelerator, that type of thing. You can have a look at it there. The three demerits are a little bit more serious with a disengagement. So that would be things like being in the wrong lane position, requiring a disengagement, some hard braking, which is a fairly annoying maneuver for the passengers and the driver. The next one, which I've assigned 5 demerits, is something that could present a medium hazard, going against navigation routes, which has happened a few times where the car's making an unexpected turn completely against the set navigation, or being in the wrong lane for the navigation that it's trying to make. 10 demerits is something I've assigned a high hazard, so pulling out in front of vehicles, endangering a pedestrian or a cyclist, or running a red light or stop sign. So I'm hoping that this type of system will help us track the data over time. So for each drive, of course, we can calculate the total demerits, the demerits per kilometer, which we're trying to get down to 0, and also the kilometers per disengagement. So for that one, I'm looking at the total number of kilometers I've driven as I'm tracking the data, which would be, and the number of disengagements, which are the 3s, the 5s, and the 10s, not including the 1s. So that's how I'm gathering the data. I'd appreciate any feedback that anybody might have. And then based on that data, eventually I'll try to make this all automated and graph it. But for now, I've just kind of come up with a more basic report card looking at what FSD is doing well at and what it's doing poorly at. So we'll have a look at that next. So this is my first attempt at trying to score FSD overall. And I've come up with some different metrics that I think are important for it to eventually master down the left-hand column there. So this is all just based on my gut feel at this point, not based on actual data gathering, but I have probably about 800 kilometers of driving with this version of FSD that this is based on. Eventually, like I said, I'll try to make this more data-based to see what I can do there. So I'll go through each of these and just put a few comments in. So generally, pedestrians and cyclists is handling pretty well, so I've assigned that a score of about 95%. In terms of recognizing pedestrians and cyclists and respecting them and stopping for them for cyclists, it does a pretty good job of driving around them, even on tight roads, and waiting behind them when there's no room to pass. A few other things it's doing fairly well at are maneuvering small roads with parked cars on either side. So when there's basically only one lane of traffic available in the center, the car will either move through or wait for the oncoming car to pass before it moves through. A couple intersection navigation items coming up next. A right turn on red, which is legal in BC. It will make a right turn on red, and it will recognize the advanced green arrows in BC for the most part, and attempt to make that left turn. Now the next two are surprisingly not very good. So this is left turn to cause traffic, for example, in an intersection, and a right turn into traffic. It can handle these when there's very light traffic and very clear gaps, but anytime there's anything other than very light traffic, it will quite often try to pull out in front of a car, into a car, even when it can clearly see the car on its display. So that's quite surprising to me, considering how much testing has been done on FSD in the US prior to it coming to Canada. The next few, traffic signal recognition. So that's basically recognizing the state of a traffic light and respecting it, going through on orange if it can, and stopping on red, of course. I've had one or two scenarios where it did try to basically run a red light, so that's why I haven't given it 100%, but it's pretty close. Stop signs, it's even closer. It's only run a stop sign once where there's some confusing lane markings. That was on my Humpback Road video if you want to have a look at that. Roundabouts and four-way stops. Okay, but not great. For the roundabouts, we've tried some complicated roundabouts out by the airport, which are on some of my videos if you'd like to have a look at that. It mostly does okay, but it also sometimes pulls out in front of vehicles, or sometimes it doesn't really properly handle multi-lane roundabouts. Four-way stops, it handles for the most part, but it's a little bit slow, so it definitely needs a little bit of improvement there. The next one, construction sites and ferry crew direction. It doesn't handle that at all at this point. Small roads without center lines, it often centers itself in the middle of the road and does move over when an oncoming car comes towards it, but much too late. It really should be way closer to the side of the road the whole time. School zones it doesn't recognize yet at all. Park zones for 30 kilometers an hour here in BC, it does recognize for the most part fairly well. The next category, speed control, smooth driving and no braking. 90%-ish. It's up there anyways. It does okay, but it does still happen that it kind of hits the brakes for no apparent reason. So there's some room for improvement there. Cornering control. It mostly does okay, but it does jerk around corners a fair amount. Not necessarily a hazard, but it's fairly uncomfortable. Acceleration control, same type of thing. Generally it handles acceleration okay, but sometimes I've had some really aggressive acceleration where it's essentially engaging the traction control in wet conditions. So that's a bit strange why it would be doing that. The next one, lane control, staying in its lane, not swerving. Generally fairly good, except that one video in Vancouver where it was imagining some cones in its lane and then swerving into a clearly observed car in the lane next to it to the left, or trying to swerve across traffic in an intersection. Very strange. Speed bumps, it handles some, but only about half of them here right now because of the various different types of speed bumps that we have in BC with the different markings. Navigation following the route, picking the correct lane. So mostly quite good, except I have had 2 or 3 instances where the car randomly decides to turn right instead of left, or turn right instead of going straight through when the navigation clearly shows it's supposed to go a certain direction. And also a few times where it hasn't picked the correct lane for the navigation, and not getting to the left turn lane when it's trying to turn left and missing its turn, or trying to turn left from a straight through lane. Sign recognition is mostly about the types of signs that aren't the basic speed signs, such as speed control for tight corners. It recognizes those too late when it's already in the corner. Rain and inclement weather, it can only handle very light rain at this point, so that obviously needs to improve if they want to get to full self-driving at some point. It needs to be able to handle rain and snow and lots of other things, so we'll see how that goes. Parking lots, of course, the current FSD version is not currently intended for, but I've tried it in some parking lots, and it actually manages to navigate fairly smoothly. There's one video on that if you'd like to have a look at it. So I give it a 50% for now. Backing up, of course, it can't handle, and hand signals from drivers. Apparently there is an intention to be able to take that into account at some point, so I've put it on the list for now, and we'll see if it shows up in one of the future versions. So that's it for now. Sorry for the not quite so exciting video here. At some point I'm hoping to start adding some actual clips of the different types of items into this scorecard report in the future. So please like and subscribe if you're enjoying the channel, and send me any feedback on either the scoring metrics or the report card. If you have something specific that you're thinking about, that you're wondering if it handles, just let me know and I'll see if I can add it to the scoring. Hope you enjoyed the video. Have a great day.